on the air with a coast-to-coast storm so intense that the National Weather Service calls it an atmospheric bowling ball. You serious? This thing's ripping through the west, burying cars, jamming up roads. It is coming for the south and the east. We're live on the ground in California, and we've got more on the storm's path. And it's a breakthrough nearly 75 years in the making. Scientists cracking the code on nuclear fusion. So what does that mean for you and the climate? And can we explain it all in plain English? The answer is yes. Hang tight. Plus, an American family desperate for clues after their son went missing in France while studying abroad. We're live overseas with that investigation. And in our original, you know the holidays are right around the corner. And the question's coming up, how do you give gifts sustainably? We've got tons of tips for you on how to crush this new trend. And the Golden Globes already under a microscope for a lack of representation, under fire tonight because not one woman, not one, was nominated for Best Director. We've got the backlash and what's next later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and right now, people across the entire country are either already experiencing or getting ready for what this next-level winter storm could bring their way in the next couple days. Because, listen, weather-wise, it sounds like everything is on the table. Tornadoes, hail, wind, snow, all of it expected to hit more than 50 million people coast to coast this week. Look at what it's doing already. So much snow, you can barely even see ahead in some of these shots. There's the Lake Tahoe area we're going to show you. These are some cars right now. Did you know that? Probably not, because they're suffocating in mounds of snow. Those are those lumps. This place has already gotten 5 feet of snow. It's not just snow. It's not just cold. We're talking rain, too, especially in places that aren't used to it. Look at this big flash flooding in L.A. They got more than 4 inches. And when you have this kind of extreme weather, right, it can be dangerous. This affects people's lives. This rollover crash in Pennsylvania, just one example. That's a car turned upside down in that ditch. In Utah, more than 20 people are now in the hospital after a bus slid off the road this morning. 5 people are in critical condition from that. And then you've got this separate storm bringing tons of flight delays over at Boston Logan. Look at these people sleeping in cots at the airport. And this thing isn't even anywhere close to over. Tomorrow, millions of people are at risk across the South. Places like New Orleans and Houston looking at potential tornadoes and hail before this storm pushes east. And by the way, this really isn't normal. Experts say it's pretty rare to have this kind of severe weather, like winds and tornadoes this time of year. We're going to get more on where this storm is headed with Bill Cairns, but let's start with Miguel Almaguer, who's live for us in California. And Miguel, looking at that shot, you are in it, right? We know that it is winter. We know that it snows in winter, but this is unusual, and this is affecting a ton of people in a ton of ways.
Yeah, Hallie, they're calling this an epic storm. Yes, you're right. This area is accustomed to snow, but not like this, at least not this quickly. They got about 48 inches of snow in about 48 hours, and at some points, it was actually snowing 5 inches an hour during the peak of this storm, and it came down for 2 solid days. It was simply too much snow too quickly. It led to blinding conditions. Wind speeds in this area reached 169 miles per hour. That's hurricane speed. It was blowing snow everywhere. It shut down the major interstate, Highway 80, that connects California and Nevada. So that thoroughfare just became a disaster. Drivers were stuck in their cars. Further down the hill, the San Francisco Bay Area, some cities got upwards of 5 inches of rain. You mentioned flash flooding earlier. We also saw that in Southern California. There was a rescue in Orange County. That's how serious this weather system was. Essentially, most parts of major cities in California were experiencing some of this snow. Back out here in the Sierra Nevada early this morning, just around midnight, the snow finally stopped. But this is what they're going to have to dig out of. And it's still very dangerous. I know it looks beautiful, but this is still a very dangerous situation for many people in this situation. And that weather system is still on the move, Hallie.
And that's the thing that's so important, Miguel, right? Yeah, it looks like a holiday postcard where you're standing, but as this storm moves south and east, it is going to look dangerous. People have to get ready. The Weather Service has said, yeah, there's going to be hazards all across the country from this thing.
Yeah, you were talking about all those road accidents in the intro here, and they're saying expect that all across the country. To stay home if you're in the path of this storm. Simply don't go out. Folks here experienced that firsthand. As we mentioned, you know I-80, Hallie, that major thoroughfare. Yeah. It was shut down. People were essentially sleeping and hunkering in their cars because they couldn't see 5 feet in front of their windshields. That's how bad this storm was. It's still very active. It's still on the move. Yes, it left behind this winter wonderland, but it certainly also left behind a path of destruction.
Miguel Almaguer, thank you very much for being with us, kicking off the show tonight. Appreciate it, friend. Let me bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns. So, Bill, you heard Miguel, you heard him lay it out, you heard us lay it out. Talk us through what's next.
Yeah, I'd say we're only heading into the second quarter of this storm. I mean, the first quarter was the California event this weekend, and then we still have to deal with a blizzard tomorrow, severe weather outbreak, and then a nor'easter to end the week, and all from the same storm system. So let's show you what happened yesterday and over the weekend. Some of these snow totals, it's pretty incredible to think that you can get this much snow in just 2 days. But this is what they did in the Tahoe area. Soda Springs was the highest, 5 feet of snow. And they also reported that they've had 7 feet of snow since December 1st. This is great. We need the build up the snowpack so when it melts, we can help fill up the reservoirs, which are so low in the West. But again, it causes a lot of issues when we get storms this big moving through many areas, 2 to 3 feet. So what's next? The biggest concern tonight into tomorrow is going to be this area of blizzard warnings. It incorporates about portions of 5, 6 different states there, much of western Nebraska, western South Dakota, the border with Wyoming, a portion there of northeast Colorado. Denver avoids the worst of this. You're only looking at about 1 to 3 inches. The highest totals and the worst driving conditions are going to be from Rapid City to Casper, heading on 80 through Nebraska, 90 up through South Dakota. That's where they're going to be telling people to stay off the roads. We could have snow drifts of 3 to 5 feet. And this is going to continue Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And then when that's still going on, a severe weather outbreak is possible starting Tuesday afternoon. This should go right after sunset. So we're talking about those nighttime tornadoes are possible. We're mostly concerned with East Texas and central Louisiana. Make sure you have your family safety plans in place and ready to go tomorrow night. And then on top of all that, our nor'easter will develop as we go into Thursday off the Delmarva. It looks like this will be just mostly a rain event from D.C. to Baltimore, Philly, New York, Hartford, and Boston. But once you get inside of the coastal areas, that's where we should be talking about a snowstorm, possibly even a significant snowstorm for the mountainous areas of the Northeast. So, Hallie, everything and the kitchen sink. I don't know what else we're missing on this one.
Well, stay close to that camera, friend, because I'm sure we're going to see you over the next few days, too. Bill Cairns, thank you very much.
We will.
Let's talk about what's going down in Washington, because within just the last couple of hours, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said his team met with Paul Whelan's sister virtually today, the American who remains detained in Russia. They are together trying to figure out what is it going to take to get Whelan out of Russia ASAP. And if you're like, great, Hallie, what is it going to take? Tell me. Sullivan didn't say. He didn't get into specifics, and there's a reason for that, right? The White House's view is that details have to be kept quiet, kept in sensitive channels with Whelan's family and with the Russian government, and that's pretty much it. Remember, Whelan is currently serving the 16-year prison sentence over there on what the U.S. calls these trumped-up spy charges. And there's been so much attention on his case after the release of Brittany Greiner last week, the WNBA superstar who is back home in the United States after nearly 10 months overseas. Her lawyer, for the first time now, speaking in a TV interview, her Russian lawyer, telling us how grateful Greiner's family is that she came out on the other side of her prison sentence. Watch.
I think it's just like great news. I think everybody's happy. It's kind of, happy end just before the Christmas. So it's unbelievable.
Morgan Chesky is joining us now from San Antonio, where Brittany Greiner is. And Morgan, let me take this in a couple of buckets, right? And let's start with the Paul Whelan bucket and this question of momentum around movement to try to get him out of Russia now that Greiner is back. His family is desperately hoping, I know, that momentum stays in their favor. But there are real questions about what leverage the U.S. has now. I think even more questions now after this meeting with his family and top national security officials today.
Yeah, Hallie, there's certainly a renewed sense of optimism on bringing Paul Whelan back home with the safe return of Brittany Greiner. And in fact, we heard from State Department spokesman Ned Price within just the last few hours speaking to bringing Whelan back home, saying that the White House remains committed and determined in this relentless pursuit of getting him back home safely, just as they did with Brittany Greiner. He did make a point to say that they cannot speak to specifics. That's not how they operate. But he did comment on two things specifically. Number one, that a dialogue, or that the conversation, the ability to have a conversation between President Biden and Putin exists, that began back in 2021 in Geneva when the two leaders met. They credited that with the ability to get Brittany Greiner back home amid an ongoing war in Ukraine, and saying that despite that, there still remains a channel in order to conduct these negotiations of sorts. And that's at least one of the reasons why they're hopeful that relatively soon, their words, a plane should be able to go home and hopefully bring Whelan back home. Hallie?
Just like what happened with Brittany Greiner, a plane going for her, bringing her back home now. So let me take that as bucket number 2 here, because we're finding out some of these extraordinary new details on how she's doing, what she is doing, what she is saying, because apparently she's saying a lot. It seems like she wants to talk. She was talking with people on the plane, talking about her time in this penal colony, etc.
Yeah, she's talking to a lot of folks that she's had a chance to interact with in that plane and here in San Antonio. She hasn't made any public comments just yet. We do anticipate a statement at some point this week that, of course, all eyes will be looking to. But from what we have heard, the accounts are optimistic. We know that Brittany arrived in San Antonio, underwent a medical evaluation, according to her agent, who told ESPN that she took, of course, that first light workout in a gym where she dropped that trademark dunk in Converse Chuck Taylor sneakers. That is, of course, good news. We don't know whether or not she'll return to the WNBA. Her agent told ESPN that is strictly Brittany's decision. And she says that, keep an eye out for that statement as she'll detail her future. But in the meantime, we've heard that a special delivery of Texas barbecue made its way to Fort Sam Houston, where friends and family have been showing up to, of course, catch up with Greiner and her wife following this 10-month-long ordeal. We heard from one spokesman who sat with her on the plane and initially thought she might want some space. But no, after spending 10 months in a penal colony, hearing mostly Russian, we've heard essentially she's excited to have people that she can converse with regularly again. Of course, something we take for granted, conversation. She hasn't had the opportunity to do so in such a long time. So all positive signs right now from those close to Brittany Greiner. And, of course, everyone waiting with a lot of anticipation, hearing from her directly after coming home safe and sound. Hallie?
Morgan Chesky, live for us in San Antonio. It is good to hear some good news on that front. Morgan, thank you. The State Department late today is saying they've seen no indication at this point there was any foul play in the sudden death of a U.S. soccer writer in Qatar, Grant Wahl, while he was covering the World Cup this weekend. The State Department is also saying they got excellent cooperation from their Qatari partners and that Wahl will have an autopsy here in the United States. Earlier today, his remains were brought back to the U.S., arriving at JFK up near New York early this morning. We also have Secretary of State Tony Blinken remembering Wahl today, saying his writing captured not only the essence of the beautiful game, but also the world around it. Wahl made some headlines last month when he was detained in Qatar for wearing a rainbow shirt in solidarity with the LGBTQ+ community. Same-sex relationships are illegal in Qatar, so he was held for something like 30 minutes before getting released. He was a friend of this show. He was on with us a lot of times. It is obviously incredibly tough for people who knew him, for people who loved him at this moment. So many people sending thoughts and prayers to his family. Megan Fitzgerald is joining us now. And we know that the State Department, from, I think, the day that this happened, had been working pretty closely with Wahl's family. Talk through some of that, because there is still a process now that will be followed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was his family's wishes that that his remains return back to the United States as soon as possible. And we are hearing from the State Department that's exactly what the Qatari government did. They worked well together to try and fulfill those wishes. And as you mentioned, that autopsy will be conducted in the United States. So many questions about how this seemingly healthy-looking 49-year-old man died, although we do know that he was very vocal about his health concerns leading up to the tournament and then being here in Qatar, talking about how he thought maybe it was just working around the clock and just not having a lot of sleep mixed with stress was taking a toll on his body. So he went to the clinic several times and got diagnosed with bronchitis. And then this idea that he took Thursday off to just rest and recuperate and, cutting off meetings and canceling things. And then the next day, Friday, at the game, he passed away. So we are seeing tributes coming in left and right, certainly on social media, across the sports world, and most certainly in U.S. soccer and the world of soccer. Just Saturday, for example, we saw FIFA honoring the late journalist with a picture of him on the Jumbotron, an empty seat in the stadium before the England-France game with flowers. We're hearing from LeBron James. We know that he interviewed LeBron James in high school for his first cover page for Sports Illustrated. And LeBron had just amazing things to say about him. him, the person that he was. And that was years ago, but he still remembered. We're hearing from some of soccer's biggest stars, Megan Rapinoe and Tyler Adams. He had such an impact in the sports world, but certainly soccer, because he cared so deeply about it. He was so passionate about spreading his love throughout the United States. And we actually had a chance to interview him, just days ago. And he said, look, I love the World Cup. By the way, he covered 8 of them, because it's an opportunity for millions of Americans to be inspired by the sport of soccer. And that is part of his legacy, is trying to spread the love of soccer to as many people as he could. Hallie.
Megan Fitzgerald, live for us there in Qatar. Megan, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So this new report out from the FBI tonight on hate crime says it looks like they went up between 2020 and 2021. And you might be saying, well, why are we saying it looks like they went up, right? Wouldn't the stats tell us for sure? Well, the FBI changed the way that local law enforcement agencies have to report the data, and not all of them switched to this new system. So the bottom line, especially if you have cities like New York and L.A. not contributing data, is that it's actually a really incomplete picture of what hate crimes look like in this country. We did learn something about the motivation behind some of these crimes, things like race, religion, sexual orientation, disability, gender identity. Plenty of groups have been tracking hate crimes on their own, including GLAAD. I talked with Sarah Kate Ellis today. She heads that organization, a group that fights for LGBTQ plus rights, and talked about how she has seen and her community members have seen attacks going up nationwide. Watch. What do you want to see happen here moving forward?
Well, a lot needs to be done. We need regulation around social media companies so that they start protecting us and stop monetizing us. We need the Equality Act. We need legislation at the state level.
I want to bring in now Jacob Soboroff, who's reporting on this for us today here at NBC News. And Jacob, you talked exclusively with the Homeland Security Secretary about this, specifically the uptick in anti-Semitism, right? Something we've talked a lot about on this show, especially with some of the things that have been in the news lately. Walk us through what you heard and where this goes.
Hallie, just like the first gentleman, Doug Elmhoff, said that there is an epidemic of hate in this country, Secretary Mayorkas believes that anti-Semitism is one of the central crises when it comes to the surge of not just hateful rhetoric, but hateful acts in this country. You can see him there speaking at an Orthodox synagogue here in New York City today, which is where I had the chance to sit down and talk with him. And I asked him on several fronts what DHS is doing to prevent and combat the rise of anti-Semitism. You don't need that scheduled release of the FBI hate statistics to see that there's been a rise in anti-Semitism in the United States. And in fact, Secretary Mayorkas himself has issued a national terrorism advisory bulletin saying that not just Jewish people, but many ethnic and religious minorities, LGBTQ plus communities are potentially the subject of violent attacks here in the United States. And so he emphasized that it's a top priority for him, but it's also in some measure a failing of the United States and the law enforcement community, because he said he wanted to squash anti-Semitism as we know it at his confirmation hearing 2 years ago. 2 years later, he said it's only getting worse.
Jacob Soboroff, appreciate it. Jacob, thank you for your reporting. We're going to play more of the exclusive interview with Secretary Mayorkas that Jacob did later on tonight on NBC Nightly News. That's 6:30 Eastern, wherever you get your NBC broadcast. We're learning this afternoon that the Justice Department's special counsel investigating former President Trump and January 6th has issued yet another subpoena to a local state official, this one in Georgia. And this one, a name that you probably know and a face you might know, that guy on the right side of your screen, Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Raffensperger, remember, was on the receiving end of that now infamous call from Mr. Trump in 2020, asking him to find the votes. It was actually early 2021 to try to flip Joe Biden's legitimate win in Georgia. A source familiar with the subpoena says it's not a request for Raffensperger to testify in person, but a request for him to hand over some documents. Sources also say that Raffensperger's lawyers are weighing the options on what the timeline is for his response. We got a lot more show to get to here, including an election police force and more prosecuting power. Some of the things Texas Republicans want to bring up in new bills next year. We'll talk about what's behind those proposals. Plus, if you're still really hoping for a blue check mark on Twitter, you can buy it again. But if you're using Apple, it's going to cost you more. That's later in the 5 Things. We are learning just before we came on the air, the Justice Department says it will not be seeking the death penalty for a former Libyan intelligence official accused of making the bomb in the 1998 Lockerbie, Scotland attack. Abu Aghi Mohammed Musad appeared in a federal court for the first time in D.C. today, being charged in a 3-count indictment, including 2 counts of destruction of an aircraft resulting in death, 1 count of destruction of a vehicle resulting in death. Bottom line, all of this results in a prison sentence, potentially of life. He's accused of making the bomb that destroyed this Pan Am Flight 103, killing a total of 270 people, the majority of them Americans. The attack happened nearly 34 years ago, just a few days before Christmas. The plane exploded 38 minutes after takeoff, crashing down in Lockerbie, Scotland. Masood's arrest, now a huge milestone in this investigation that is decades old, especially for the families of those victims. Listen.
The time for justice is now.
Her belongings were scattered all over the Lockerbie countryside. We got a notebook, and the notebook had on the cover the quote, "No one dies unless they're forgotten," and I tried to live by that.
Ken Delanian is joining us now for more on this. And Ken, we understand the indictment here has just been unsealed. I read it super briefly during the commercial break, and unless I'm missing something, it doesn't shed any light on what is one of the central mysteries now that still remains on this, which is how he got to the United States, how he came to be in custody of law enforcement in the first place here.
That's right, Hallie, it does. And that indictment actually says less than the criminal complaint that was released in 2020, which had a pretty interesting narrative about why the DOJ believes that this man built the bomb, principally because he confessed, allegedly, to a Libyan interrogator back in 2012. We didn't learn anything more about the circumstances of his arrival here at today's hearing either. What we did learn is that this defendant appears to have a pretty good command of English, speaks English well, told the court that he believes he may want to hire his own lawyer. So the public defender who was on hand at the hearing today sort of represented him in today's hearing, but it's up in the air as to whether he'll be able to hire his own lawyer. And then we also learned that the DOJ has taken the death penalty off the table in this case. So as you said, a maximum of life in prison. So the big questions, which is, how did the FBI get him here? One thing that they say in the news release associated with the indictment, attached to the indictment, is that there was an Interpol notice for him that was put out that basically made him subject to arrest anywhere around the world. So what legal experts say is presumably the DOJ has some kind of legal process, some kind of way that they can show the court that they didn't just kidnap this guy off the street, that they got, there doesn't necessarily have to be an extradition, but some legal way that he was transferred here on an FBI jet arriving yesterday. And then the other big mystery in this case is, or question really, is the circumstances of that confession in Libya in 2012 when there wasn't even really a government. Gaddafi had just been overthrown, and Libya is not a place where interrogations are known to be very pleasant, and so you could just bet that one of the defenses in this case is going to be that coercion, confession was coerced, and the DOJ is going to have to overcome that, Hallie.
What I think is people have to remember here, especially people who maybe weren't old enough to remember this initially, is what a huge deal it was. I mean, obviously, horrific. The deaths of so many people, so many Americans, and those families, so many of them, who have still been pushing for some kind of accountability on this. Talk through some of that, because what you saw today, we played a little bit of it in the introduction here. It's just like skims the surface of the emotion from these families now.
Yeah, it's been such a long and painful saga for them in pursuit of justice. And this was, at the time, the largest terror attack against Americans ever. It was supplanted, obviously, by 9/11. But this was a horrific incident. People were coming home from college, there were students on that plane. There were 190 Americans killed out of 270 total, and they just fell out of the sky. They were all killed. And for the families, it was absolutely horrific. And then there were 2 trials of the 2 alleged intelligence operatives who helped slip, according to the charges, slip the suitcase with the bomb onto the plane in Malta. One of those people was acquitted, and another got a long prison sentence, but then was released in 2012 on compassionate release, had cancer. He later died. But so for these families, they've never seen a defendant in the U.S. courtroom facing U.S. justice, and they never really had the whole story of what happened. And now they're getting an account that says that this guy built the bomb. And not only that, Hallie, the criminal complaint also says that he built another bomb that was used to bomb a disco in Berlin back in 1986, where U.S. service members were killed, that led the Reagan administration to actually conduct airstrikes in Libya. So this guy, according to the Justice Department, has been building bombs for Libyan intelligence for a long time.
Ken Delaney, and thank you so much for being on top of this story for us today. More to come on that front. Thank you. To some news now, making serious headlines because it could go a long way to solving energy supply shortages in this country, maybe forever. That's because NBC News is confirming that the Energy Department plans to announce less than 24 hours tomorrow, that scientists in California have been able to produce a nuclear fusion reaction that creates a net energy gain. Wait a second. If you're like, okay, Hal, LOL, don't even know what that is. That's not even English, right? That was our challenge here in telling you the story, because this is a huge deal. This is a huge deal. Here's what it means. It means, in the plainest of English, okay? It means scientists have basically been able to copy the way that the sun and stars generate power, carbon-free power, BFD. Probably still decades away from actually being able to use it, but like still, it's a major step toward developing technology that could generate cheap electricity with no carbon footprint. Scientists have been trying to figure this out for like 75 years. Josh Letterman is joining us now. There is a major climate impact. There is a major sort of human accountability impact here, because every time we talk climate change, we talk about the carbon footprint. In the least nerdy way possible, talk to us about why this is such a big deal, the kinds of things that could be powered using this kind of energy, which sounds like stuff that like you read in science books. You can't tune it out because it matters.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think of the opportunity presented here, Hallie, by the possibility of taking hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, and using it to generate endless amounts of electricity that doesn't create emissions the way creating electricity does from fossil fuels like coal or natural gas, and then using that electricity to power all of the things that we do, our homes, our cars, our airplanes, you really start to see a potential solution to the climate crisis. And Hallie, I'm not a scientist, and I'll try not to play one on your show, but basically the way that they have done this is to take the world's largest laser and beam it at these tiny pellets filled with hydrogen. It gets really, really, really hot, and then inside of these pellets, these two hydrogens fuse together to become helium, and in that reaction, there's a massive amount of energy that is created that they then could hypothetically capture and turn into electricity. And the beauty of it, again, it doesn't create those greenhouse gas emissions. So truly an exciting possibility here.
To be clear, because I want to ask the question that I think people may be thinking, like, when you talk about nuclear fusion or nuclear, it does not relate to nuclear bombs, right? Just explain that, make sure people know.
That's absolutely true. It is not the kind of technology that you would use to create a weapon. There's no real risk of this being diverted to that kind of use. And we should also point out, it's not like this is on the horizon tomorrow. I think the way that people should think about this is like a proof of concept, right? It's like the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk in 1903. It shows that flight is possible, but it doesn't mean it's ready for prime time. And it's going to take years, probably upwards of a decade or more, to be able to turn this into something that would be commercially viable. And there are still huge scientific challenges ahead. If you think about this reaction that they're going to be announcing tomorrow, they were able to create this amount of energy for a tiny fraction of a second, and they can only use that laser once a day to do it. To make this something that could actually power our homes and businesses, you'd have to be able to fire that laser dozens of times per second, try to get this something that doesn't take up 3 football fields, but instead would be much more manageable, commercially viable source of energy, potentially years into our future, Hallie.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Josh, like, what's the grain of salt caveat here? And I think you've just laid it out, because the timeline is part of that, right? And the scalability factor of this is part of that. That said, is it your sense that, like, I think about you and me, we're around this, before we're on Social Security, you know what I mean? Like, is this something that we could actually see realistically commercially? What do experts say? Or are we talking about like my kids' kids are going to see this?
I spoke earlier today with the former Undersecretary of Energy who oversaw this research until just about a year and a half ago. He said he could easily see within 15 to 20 years this being commercially viable. He compared it to the way 15 or 20 years ago we were starting to see the first models of electric vehicles, but it was still kind of prototype scenario. Here we are a couple of decades later. People drive electric vehicles.
Yeah, Teslas are on the road every day, and so are other brands as well. Josh Letterman, thank you so much. Great to see you. Thanks for nerding out with us, but keeping it chill. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Iran has executed a second known prisoner today, convicted over alleged crimes during protests there. This person was publicly hanged from a construction crane. Activists are obviously furious. They're warning that at least a dozen people have already been sentenced to death in closed-door hearings, all, of course, sparked by demonstrations after the death of a young woman in Iranian custody. Number 2, China is dropping some of its COVID travel tracking. Part of a smartphone app that recorded a person's movements stopped working today. A different app meant to stop people who test positive for COVID from traveling is still running. Last week, the country ended some of its toughest COVID rules after widespread demonstrations against them. Number 3, CVS and Walgreens agreeing to pay a combined $10.7 billion to settle allegations that they did not properly oversee opioid painkiller prescriptions. The companies have been accused of contributing to the U.S. opioid crisis. The money's going to go to state and local and tribal opioid programs. As part of the settlement, neither company formally admitted to wrongdoing. Number 4, Mississippi State's head football coach, Mike Leach, has been hospitalized in critical condition. The university saying he had a personal health issue at his home. He was airlifted to a medical facility in Jackson. The defensive coordinator has been put in charge of the team in the meantime. Number 5, Twitter, relaunching now its Twitter Blue subscription service today, and it's more expensive if you use Apple. If you want to edit tweets or get a blue check mark, you got to pay $8 a month to get verified. Apple users have to pay $11. No official explanation on why that's the case, but according to some reports, Twitter wants to offset some of the fees that the Apple App Store charges. Coming up, a U.S. family desperate for information with their son now missing, studying abroad in France. He hasn't been heard from in more than 2 weeks. We've got the latest on the investigation from overseas in just a sec. One family tonight searching for any clues about where their son is after he went missing in France a couple of weeks ago. 22-year-old Ken DeLand Jr., a senior at St. John Fisher University in Rochester, New York. He's on the study abroad program in France that's supposed to end Saturday, but there's been no word from him in more than 2 weeks. Here's what we know, that his family last spoke with him on November 27th. They say he left his host family's house in Grenoble, France, and was boarding a train headed to Valence. On December 3rd, he was spotted on a surveillance camera. He was going into a sports store, basically, like a shop in Mantes-la-Mer. Yesterday, family and friends held a prayer vigil just outside of Rochester. And Grenoble's public prosecutor says they've launched an investigation. Let's bring in Molly Hunter. Molly, first of all, what are we hearing officially, like from investigators, et cetera, about this, about where this is headed? What do we know factually here?
Very little, Hallie. And we've been asking French authorities at all levels. And the Grenoble prosecutor's office finally released a statement this morning. And this is really all we have officially on the record to NBC News. So they say they launched an investigation on November 29th. That is 2 days, as you just walked us through the timeline, 2 days after his family say they last spoke with him. Now, they say they launched an investigation not because there was a criminal report or because anything kind of had been filed officially, but because students reported that they had not seen him. Now, they are also saying reportedly, and again, this is in a statement from the Grenoble prosecutor's office, they are saying that he reportedly told people that he arrived for the study abroad program insufficiently, is the word that they used, that he had difficulty making friends, that he was having a hard time. They also said then he left Grenoble voluntarily, that he appeared to leave at his own will, suggesting that there was no necessarily kind of foul play or kidnapping or anything. Like, they're not leaving any wiggle room there for anyone to interpret that as foul play. And then they say that French authorities, they say that he was scheduled to leave on the 15th, so just in a couple of days. Now, we know from his family, Hallie, that he was planning to come home for Christmas, but all we know is that French authorities are saying, look, he reportedly had a tough time, according to people, and they also say, look, he apparently mentioned to a few people he wanted to also visit Marseille before going home. That is all we know, and we have been going back all day, Hallie, to try to get more information from them, and really, they're keeping quite tight-lipped.
And I'm thinking about this family, too, because they've got to be managing this and be thinking about this and be dealing with this from a continent away.
Yeah, a continent away, really far, thinking time change, thinking language barriers. I have no idea. Look, he was, of course, studying French. I have no idea if his family speaks French. We have, of course, Hallie reached out to his family in the States. And the other thing to consider is privacy laws. He's 21 years old, so the French authorities are not necessarily going to release a lot of information to his family or to otherwise, or to NBC News about what is happening and their whereabouts. Hallie, we will absolutely stay on this one.
Molly Hunter, thank you for being on this one for us. Appreciate it. We're learning tonight that back here at home, Texas Republicans have something like 20 bills in the works that would make a bunch of new changes to the state's voting laws, including creating an election police force that would be dedicated to enforcing and prosecuting election and voting crimes, very similar to the one that exists in Florida. The other legislation on the table, raising the penalties for election and voting rights crimes to felonies from misdemeanors, and expanding the state attorney general's power to prosecute these crimes. This is legislation that's been a priority for Governor Greg Abbott after former President Trump's false claims that he lost the 2020 election over widespread fraud. Obviously, no evidence that that fraud exists. Coming up, sustainability in style this holiday season. How's that for a little tease? We're going to have tips for how to make your holiday gift giving more eco-friendly. This is actually really interesting. Big trend. We'll talk about it. The Golden Globe nominees also announced today. One big snub, or snubs plural. That's coming up. Stay with us. So tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping an eye on. And these days, there's been so much news about the climate crisis with sustainability, right? How do you have a sustainable holiday, for example, on people's minds, especially with the holidays coming up pretty soon? You got a lot of folks who want to spend their money in a greener way, knowing that all of this stuff around the holidays can be tough on the environment. Think about it, from the shipping to the wrapping paper, even the gift itself. Gift giving this time of year can add up to a pretty big carbon footprint. So our Dasha Burns takes a look at how to make gifting easier on the planet and maybe your budget, too. Watch.
Less than 2 weeks until Christmas, and holiday shopping is in full swing. The National Retail Federation predicts holiday sales will grow between 6% and 8% over last year, totaling around $950 billion this year. And 83% of customers will seek sustainable products in shipping this holiday season, according to research by Salesforce.
The consumer has a certain expectation now of what they want from the companies they're buying from. And so the retailers, one, want to be part of the solution. And there's more emphasis on what do you stand for? What are you doing about climate change?
So what makes a gift eco-friendly?
I consider a gift to be eco-friendly if the materials that are used in the product are as sustainable as possible. And then at the end of the product's useful life, there is a way to dispose of it, or for it to biodegrade, or for it to be recycled.
Here are 5 tips Preston, founder of Mindful Mama, says can make your gifting more sustainable. 1, focus on quality over quantity.
So focus on buying one really nice gift instead of a whole bunch of cheaper gifts, something that will last.
2, look for products made from sustainable materials.
So you can find wood toys, you can find soft cloth dolls or other types of toys, as opposed to plastics.
She says you can also find plastic toys that are made from recycled materials. Companies like Green Toys make their products from recycled milk jugs and plastic bottles. 3, give experiences instead of stuff. For young kids, that could mean a membership to a science or children's museum. For older kids, think movie gift cards and activity adventures that are available where they live. And for adults, maybe concert tickets or a cooking class. Tip number 4, shop local.
When you shop local, there's not as much incurred in the way of shipping. You're also supporting a local business or a local artisan. At this time of year, there's often a lot of craft fairs around, so you can find really nice children's toys or gifts that are made by local artisans.
And 5, gift reusable items, things that replace disposable products. Think reusable containers, water bottles, and straws.
The user uses them over and over again, and maybe they'll think of you as they use that gift. So the gift, it kind of keeps on giving over time.
Also, when it comes to wrapping paper, don't buy it. Use old newspaper or other paper you may already have in your house to cut down on additional wrapping paper waste.
Dasha Burns is joining us now. Dasha, this is a topic that I'm like super interested in. I just think it's something that so many younger people especially are thinking about. How can you sort of do the thing where you're feeling like you're able to give generously at the holidays while also not feeling like you are, doing things that are maybe not super sustainable?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head here, Hallie. A huge part of this push is this new generation of consumers. There's more focus on buying used or pre-owned, even renting with the rise of companies like Rent the Runway, for example, and just generally getting more use out of any given product. So hence our quality versus quantity tip you just heard about in that piece. And all of that translates to gift giving during the holidays and gift receiving as well. I think expectations have changed on both sides of that equation.
The other thing that's hard for people, right, especially in the day of like buy online, which so many people are doing, is packaging, because everything from one order comes in a different box, or something small comes in a big box, or you're getting 17 different packages from 17 different places.
Well, so number one, we talked about it in the piece, shop local, right? But sometimes you do have to buy online. And if you're ordering from Amazon, for example, one thing you can look for is try to get those packages to come on the same day rather than just choosing the fastest possible option. That way they can package things together and you're not getting, 3 different packages, each with their own tiny little trinket. Small things like that can add up to make a big difference, Hallie.
Dasha Burns, great to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day. And because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Midwest Bureau, the biggest oil spill in the history of the Keystone Pipeline has been contained, according to the pipeline operator. Investigators are looking into why this leak started happening in Kansas last week. Something like 14,000 barrels of crude oil spilled into a creek nearby. That's like 500,000 gallons. The part of the pipeline that failed is now closed until it can be fixed. Environmental officials say the drinking water there has not been affected. From our Northeast Bureau, a Christopher Columbus statue in Philadelphia is out in the open again, and the city's mayor is not happy about it. A spokesperson for his office says the statue should be removed, that it's been a source of controversy there. A box went up a couple years ago after protests against racial injustice. Some of the protests focused on taking that statue down, too. A judge ruled late Friday that the box had to be removed so the statue can be revealed, and said if the city didn't like its message, it can add a plaque more in line with what the mayor wants to convey. And from our Washington Bureau, D.C. has a plan to make riding the bus free starting this summer. They're trying to boost ridership for people doing public transportation in the city. They want to take away some of the burden, too, on lower-income commuters. Similar plans have been put into place as a trial around the country during the height of the pandemic. D.C.'s plan would be permanent. The council has another vote on it later this month. The Golden Globes trying to make a comeback after allegations of ethical issues, a lack of diversity, and the nominations that came out today may not be much help because none of the nominees for Best Motion Picture Director are women, even though some very well-reviewed movies like Till, The Woman King, Women Talking were directed by women. We've reached out to the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which puts on the Globes, for a response, but haven't heard back yet. You'll remember the Globes got some real backlash last year after the LA Times published that expose about alleged ethical issues inside that association. It also revealed the organization didn't have any black voting members, hasn't had any since at least 2002. Variety Senior Awards Editor Clayton Davis joins us now. Clayton, you reported that in the history of the Globes, only 9 women have been nominated for directing. 3 of them won. What's, I think, a little hard to process here, it's not like no women are directing movies at all, right? I mean, it's not like women don't exist in the industry and aren't directing movies that are really well reviewed. What's up with this?
Hi, Hallie. Thank you for having me. Yeah, contrary to popular belief, women make movies, and they make actually some pretty exceptional ones. It is a gross oversight by the Hollywood Foreign Press to overlook some fantastic films this year that you mentioned: Women Talking, The Woman King, Till. Even some smaller independent films like After Sun and Nanny are critically acclaimed and loved by critics. However, none of the women made it into their director lineup, and no films that were directed by a woman were nominated in either Best Picture category of drama and comedy and musical. And even look further down the line, in the screenplay categories, just Sarah Polley is the only woman to represent her film in that lineup of 5. So it was just a gross oversight on their part. And even with that gross oversight, there were some big omissions, like Danielle Deadwyler from Till, missing from the Best Actress Drama lineup. It was a little sad to see.
What's interesting here, and like we talked about, I think people probably remember, at least vaguely, like the issues that the Globes have had just recently. Did nobody at the Hollywood Foreign Press Association nobody said to them, hey, read the room? You know what I mean? Like in this moment?
So what I tend to tell a lot of people is it's not always the best films that are recognized by any awards organization. It's what's the most seen. And if voters aren't making the proper time to watch these outstanding films, a lot of people are looking for a quote-unquote good time. Listen, this lineup of Best Picture nominees is probably our most consumer-friendly, populist lineup we're ever going to have. You have Top Gun Maverick, you have Elvis, you have Glass Onion, you have Everything Everywhere All at Once. As we saw last year with Coda, that when they won the SAG Award, that took place just a few days after Ukraine got bombed. People were looking for some joy and some hope for the future. And it seems like a lot of people are still looking for that. And something like Phil or Women Talking, as excellent as they are, it takes a lot of work to get them to press play.
You mentioned Top Gun Maverick, but I don't think Tom Cruise, right, got nominated here. Will Smith didn't either, which feel like a couple of interesting snubs just in light of everything that's gone down over the past year. Obviously, I think Will Smith, remember, it was this calendar year that the slap at the Oscars happened.
Yeah, it feels like 10 years ago. Yeah, Tom Cruise isn't nominated for Best Actor. However, he is a producer on Top Gun Maverick, so he is recognized in that category. And this comes after he returned his 3 Golden Globe statuettes, and we still don't know if he's going to attend the ceremony or if anyone who's going to attend the ceremony. Brendan Fraser, nominated for Best Actor for The Whale, has come out publicly and said he won't be attending the show. However, he is the front runner to win the Best Actor category. So it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds over the next several weeks. In general, I was going to say, as you saw today, not a lot of people came out with statements or are congratulatory or just like thanking the Globes or sitting down with any journalists to talk about it, because people are going to ask, are you going? No one wants to answer that either.
It's going to be a thing. It's going to continue to be a thing. Clayton Davis, thank you for getting on top of it. I'm sure we'll talk again over the course of award season. I appreciate you being on. Coming up, NASA taking one giant leap towards sending U.S. astronauts back to the moon with the safe return of the Orion space capsule. We're going to talk about what this means for the next Artemis mission coming up in just a sec. NASA is now a step closer to sending U.S. astronauts back to the moon thanks to the successful uncrewed Artemis 1 mission. So now it's all about Artemis 2. Big difference with astronauts on board, tentatively scheduled for 2024. Of course, tons of new video and pictures from the first Artemis splashdown over the weekend. Check out this selfie. It's like kind of a badass. Can I say badass? It is. Sorry, I love that. People knew what I was going to say. It's the moon and Earth and all of this. NASA scientists have to look through all this data, et cetera, et cetera.
Don't move the picture.
I didn't even introduce you yet.
But I got to show you something.
Nobody knows who's talking. It's Tom Costello.
Okay, well, see, the picture's gone now.
No, go back to the picture.
Right.
We'll pull it back up. What's a big deal to you about that picture?
Okay, there. So here's what I want to show you. I'm so sorry. This is Tom Costello speaking. What I want to show you is you're seeing in that photograph. You see the Orion spacecraft.
Yes.
You don't want to see me. I want to see the photo. You see the moon. You see Earth, and then you see the sun in the far distance. Isn't this incredibly cool? High resolution.
One of the coolest things about it, though, is what it means for the next mission, which is Artemis 2, 2024. The difference is there's going to be astronauts on board. Explain why this is such a big milestone for NASA, because they've sent people to the moon, right? This is a different thing here.
50 years ago, yesterday was the last landing on the moon with Apollo. So we haven't landed humans on the moon in 50 years. And now that's going to change. Artemis, this was an uncrewed mission, nobody on board. It's a test flight. They want to make sure that this Artemis rocket stack and the Orion spaceship, which we see, that it's safe before they put humans on board, right? Because we're going to put humans in an orbital move around the moon, probably at the end of 2024. We're talking 2 years. And then if that goes well, all indications are it should, then you're watching Orion come in after it splash landed in the ocean. And then after they do that orbital shot around the moon, they want to land on the moon, probably in 25 or I think 26, to be honest. I think probably 2026.
Okay, and then what, right? Because that's the question. And then what? The goal is to
so first of all, there are a lot of headlines with this. They want to put the first woman and person of color
that's right.
on that flight to the moon. And you know what? If you look at the current astronaut corps, 42 astronauts are eligible possible to go to the moon. They're far more diverse than the old days, right? I mean, we're talking about a wide class of female and male and Hispanic and African American. How do they pick the ones who get to go? Sorry?
How do they pick the ones who get to go?
Well, then they got to go through this long, the chief astronaut makes that decision. And he has a whole long list that he checks off. To answer your question, so they want to put that crew on the moon in 25, 26, and then they want to build a lunar base. Not only that, they want a lunar orbiting space station, because eventually astronauts will work on the space station. They will go down to the lunar surface for a few days at a time, come back up, do more science, go back down. So it's going to be a permanent presence and then a lunar base. Then you'll actually have humans on the moon, living and working on the moon.
Then you and I move in, Tom.
No way, Josie.
We go up and we do our thing.
I'm perfectly happy here. I like Hawaii. I'm going to be there on the weekends.
If you wish that you could talk about space with Tom Costello for another hour, you are in luck. Tom, thank you. Because your special, which we're very excited about, Battlefield Space to the Moon and Beyond, airs tomorrow night, right here, however you're streaming or watching this, 9 o'clock Eastern, hosted, of course, by Tom Costello on NBC News Now. That does it this hour. More loopiness with Tom Costello tomorrow. I'm sure, same time, same place. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.